Man, I want to say rest in peace to Jason David Frank, man, because that was my first childhood hero. Growing up, I was a Power Rangers fanatic, and so condolences to his family, to all his fans and part of his fans. Once a Ranger, always a Ranger, right? I remember being young, right? I was probably 7 years old, maybe younger than that, maybe probably a little, probably around 7 years old, right? When we finally got like some dial-up internet, right? Now I get on the computer, and the first thing I looked up on the computer was first thing I looked up when I got on the computer. So I looked up some Power Ranger lore. 7 years old, that's what I'm looking up. Power Ranger lore and trying to find all Tommy Oliver and finding out his real name is Jason David Frank. I didn't even know they had real names back then, right? Looked him up, realized he really was into karate. Found his, I don't know if Wikipedia was out back then. I think it was. Then I looked him up, found out about his karate tournaments, that he had a karate school. And all I wanted to do was to be a Power Ranger. All I wanted to do, I was like, you know what, Mom? I tried to convince her, like, hey, Mom, let's move to California so I can go to Jason David Frank Karate School. Listen, that's all that I wanted to do back then, right? And like my dream as a child of wanting to be a Power Rangers was what turned into a lot of my affiliation with blurred culture and with music. That's kind of what started a lot of it for me, right? Because it kind of branched off into my love for martial arts, how I eventually got into boxing. Because, you know, my people ain't always had enough money to keep me in martial arts. And it branched off into a lot of different things I was into. And it all started with Power Rangers for me, right? That's what it all started with. I remember one year we had a VHS tape. We had a VHS recorder, right? And I had a blank VHS. And the only thing I ever recorded with a blank VHS in my life was the Forever Red episode of, what was it, Wild Force? Wild Force Forever Red. That was the only episode, that's the only thing I ever recorded on a VHS tape. I remember how hurt I was. My little brother dad had recorded a football game over that tape. I was pissed. I was thoroughly pissed, right? Then YouTube came up later and I could find it on YouTube. Man, I remember I got on social media. I found out Jason David Frank was on social media. I'll go follow some of his pages, some of his fan pages. This is as I got a little bit older. And I would see him popping up at all these different anime conventions and nerd conventions and popping up at all these places, and then seeing he was getting into mixed martial arts and these different things he was into. And he always had this upbeat demeanor, always had this leader way of speaking and mentality that he would bring, you know what, to his lives, to the conventions that he would go to. Pretty sure he did some Make-A-Wish foundations. And it's really sad. I think, I don't know what all went into it. I really don't. I think he was doing a live just maybe almost 25 minutes before he died, talking about some different things he was doing. He's going to take the role of Eric Reed in the white, what was it? The White Dragon. White Dragon. And just all this stuff has been amazing to me. I remember seeing when they tried to bring back like a more adult iteration of Power Rangers. And when the Power Rangers movie came out a few years ago, and I was front and center to see it, and I loved it. And I remember was it Off the Grid or Beyond the Grid or Power Grid, whatever it was, right? These comics coming out. And I wasn't expecting this to happen. I really wasn't expecting this to happen. Right now, it's very important for people to stay conscious of their mental health. And there's some things that happened before his death. Like, I think his stepdaughter committed suicide like a year ago. And I think he ended up having a divorce with his wife. His wife divorced him. I believe that may have had something to do with, I think she might have accused him of cheating or something. I'm not sure of all the validity of that. But men, you know, in life, fight on, man. Life, fight on. If you need to talk to somebody, man. Find an excuse to stick in there. Find a reason to stay in there. Right? You know, if you have a divorce or you're with a woman and things don't work out between y'all, that's not a reason to end it, man. Don't put so much of your reason for living on a woman or a relationship or a career that it has the power to where if you no longer have those things, that you end yourself. Please don't do that. You know, there's been a lot of crazy deaths happening since 2020 especially, but just in the last 2 weeks we had a bunch of crazy deaths, right? We had the death of Anthony Rumble Johnson, RIP, one of the most intimidating fighters UFC history. We had the death of Takeoff, right? One of the most chill guys. If you ever hear people speak about how they carry themselves in the music industry, there's some weird energy out right now. It's really dark for a lot of people and their mental health and stuff. And I think that it's important that you make sure that you're good, make sure that you're grounded, make sure that you're centered, and try to set your life on a trajectory. You know, I heard someone say before, and I don't remember where I got this from, but that the recipe for happiness is to feel like you're in a positive trajectory towards your goals, right? When you've reached your goals, you always got to set new ones. But then there's also hope deferred, makes the heart grow sick. And you have to know how to switch the goals that you have if the goals that you have are not working out. And if that cost is getting too great for you, you know, if it ruins your relationships, you know what I mean? If, you know, you have kids, a family, you're unable to provide for your kids and family. If it's leading you to drug addiction, right? You have to be able to orient your ego in life. Because we're not going to fully escape our egos in our lifetimes. I think that's an important concept to understand. So this was one that hit me particularly hard. This is probably one of the hardest of the celebrity deaths. It's hit me since Chadwick Boseman. And that Chadwick Boseman death, it hit me pretty hard. Because, man, the way he would be a figure and pretty much a light beacon for a lot of black community, especially the blurred community. This just as a role model, as a character, as a figure. Then after I found out he died, and it hit me hard, and I found out we're like cousins by marriage or something like that. But South Carolina ain't that big, man. Like, that's just how it works. You know what I mean? But y'all, man, y'all take care of yourselves, man. Take care of yourselves. But I just remember all the great memories that I had associated with watching Jason David Frank, not only in Power Rangers, but social media. Like the first time I really ever saw something about like Comic Cons and these different conventions for nerds, it was really probably from his page. And one of my dreams and one of my goals in life was to finally get to meet him one day. Right? And most of the time they say, never meet your heroes. That's what they say, right? But it's very rare, if ever, you'll hear a bad story of a fan of Jason David Frank who actually got to meet him. So rest in peace to Jason David Frank. Once a Ranger, always a Ranger. It's Coach Brody. I'm out.